one of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout 10 years of doing this job is that very often governments are not the clearest indication of the people of a country. They're not always. It's not always the case where they are a viable representation of the people. And you cannot fully understand something until you actually go out and see it and experience it.
That is Paul Barbato. He's today's guest and the founder of the popular YouTube channel Geography Now. They recently concluded a 10-year-long video project profiling every UN-recognized country. You can check them out at youtube.com/geography now. I love when people take on these massive projects and actually see them through. I really admire that about Paul's work. The station, Geography Now, has earned over 450 million views in its lifespan, and you can discover each nation's geography, their culture, their history, their politics, some of their unique quirks. And Paul does it all through a blend of humor and educational content. And I really love his commitment to including the local perspective in each country's profile.
Yeah, that's my biggest secret of the channel. A lot of people wonder how they watch the channel, like, how did you know that they're from the country? Like, how did you know that? How did you know that? We don't post that up on Wikipedia. How did you find out that information? And my secret is I just talk to people from the countries. Like, they are the best source. You can Wikipedia all you want, read all the books you need all day. And at the end of the day, you're not going to find out stuff that only the people know. The people of the country know the country better than anybody else.
As a traveler, Paul has been to 99 countries himself, so I'm always fishing for those less visited destinations for you, and I was excited to hear his answer to this question. What are a few places that you've been that make you think kind of like, why don't more people travel here? Like, this is incredible. Why is this not more popular? You also might discover a new approach to your pre-trip research today. We talk about the state of content creation on YouTube, choosing yourself, some advice for battling imposter syndrome. Paul shares his unique PopCare Index, that's actually an acronym, and how he uses it to decide where to visit, the importance of going beyond the media narratives to understand the places you are visiting, and so much more, plus a couple other surprises. I'm going to spill the beans on my inspiration for the Zero to Travel theme music. You'll hear that in this conversation. And I'm kicking off a brand new road trip series. You're going to get my choice cuts for the best road trips in the USA, one for each area, north, south, east, west, and central over the coming weeks. And you'll get some of my favorite all-time hidden gem road trip destinations. You're going to hear all that and much more. Woo! It's all happening right now. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. Excited to bring this one to you. Don't forget, we have our part one of the 5 best road trips in the USA. That's a segment within the show you're going to hear today. And of course, this wonderful conversation with Paul Barbato. Stick around on the back end. I want to share a big takeaway I had around how you do your pre-trip research, something that I want to improve on. I think Geography Now, his YouTube station, can be a great starting point for that as well. 2 last reminders before we dive in. You're going to hear part 1 of our brand new mini-series, the 5 best road trips in the USA. Today, you are headed north, one of my favorite hidden gem road trips in the States. I put that in the interview segment just to break it up a little bit, try something different today, so I hope you enjoy that. And we've got a free newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. Sign up over there to keep in touch. Thanks for listening. Now, without further ado, here's my conversation with Paul, and I will see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. Paul Barbato, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. Thanks for being here in the middle of the night like a vampire.
Oh, it's no bother for me at all. Don't worry. I'm good.
No, I appreciate it, man. And I've been digging into your channel, Geography Now, popular YouTube channel you started in 2014. And it's great. But man, I just need to check in with you because I know you had a pretty recent video. You had like this robbery happen. You weren't in a good place. I hate to start with this, but it's kind of like tying in with, I mean, you're wrapping up a big chapter in your life with this project, and we're going to get into all that. But man, I just want to like ask you how you're doing, because that was like one of the more heartfelt videos I've seen, and I was feeling for you.
Yeah, it's LA, stuff happens. The show must go on. I mean, that's essentially the mentality I had to have at that moment. I was actually in Afghanistan when that happened. And my mom was in Korea, so nobody was home. And I assume maybe somebody was watching that the house was empty and the lights weren't on. And so maybe that's why. I have no idea. But yeah, it happened. You have no choice but to move forward. So just, yeah, I got to finish this project regardless. Take everything, just don't take my laptop and hard drives.
Yeah, because you did the video, and like I said, it was really raw. I mean, you're walking through the house and you can see, all the stuff sort of strewn about, and like, obviously that feeling, you can feel that feeling through the video of like, oh gosh, like if you've had stuff stolen from you before, and then somebody in your house and like going through your stuff, it's a terrible feeling. But I felt like also, and this was some months ago now at the time that we're recording this, but it seemed like it brought up a lot of sort of bigger decisions in your life. Like, should I even stay in LA? Like, and then you even mentioned kind of like, why am I even traveling? Is this like this hole I'm just trying to fill in my life? I'm just like wondering, from that experience, and now you got some months behind you, you're still in Los Angeles. Where are you, man? Like, what did you take away from it? How you doing?
Yeah, that I've never been burglarized before, so that was my first time, and it was just like you said, it's you feel kind of dirty after you like go in your house and you see the ransacked and rummaged furniture and everything, and like someone was in there and they did this. It's weird, and then worse, you have to clean up. So yeah, it's quite the experience to go through. I don't know if you've gone through anything like that, if your car was jacked or anything like that, but yeah, it's not fun. And yeah, it kind of was like the last straw for me and my mom. She lives in my house. Ever since my dad passed away, I've kind of taken on the role of providing for her. So it's not just me. Like if I was just by myself, I could probably just stay here, but I also have to consider my mom and put her into the picture. So yeah, for her sake and my sake, and just the fact that I have a dependent, I'm like, we got to get out of here. So we're trying to make our next move. I won't move until I at least finish the Zimbabwe episode, and I have some other small projects, and then I want to sell my house and move out. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, man. Sorry. So yeah, it's this is an interesting time to talk about your YouTube channel, and I felt like I wanted to bring this up, not to start the interview on like a bummer for you, because I'm sure it's a hard topic, but it's like I feel like it's tying in, your life, obviously, when you're creating content like this and putting yourself out there. It's your job, but also like your life is intertwined with it. Right.
Yes, it's almost every single waking moment I have to think of something that contributes to the channel, and it's a little exhausting sometimes after 10 years of doing it. But yeah, it does consume a large chunk of my daily life. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing the podcast for 11 years, so I understand. It's like, it's such a labor of love, and I love it. It's been the best thing I've done. Like I always say, like outside of having, kids and traveling the world, having this podcast is like the best.
It's your labor child. Yeah, you went through labor.
I'm guessing you feel the same, like you gave birth to Geography Now, and now the idea to tackle every UN nation in alphabetical order is pretty insane. And now this is an interesting time because you are like, literally, you mentioned the Zimbabwe video, you're literally editing the last video of this whole series. I have to ask you the obvious question. Have you been to all of these countries? It seems like some of it's a bit crowdsourced. And I what I love about it is you could see how much effort you put into it, because I was watching I think it was Zambia, the last one, and seeing, you had somebody come on that was the local talking about the local food. So you have that local perspective, which is really cool. And it's really educational and entertaining. And I should mention, I think it's a cool place. If people are doing research on a place, they should check out your channel because, it's not the typical, like, here's 10 things to do in Rome or whatever. Like, you're getting more insight into the country you're stepping into, which I think is super cool. But man, they look tough to put together.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say the 10 fun things, because that's one of the reasons why I started the channel, because I wanted to learn about every country in the world before there was even a geography channel on YouTube. And the only thing I could find that was even remotely in the realm of teaching geography was those like 10 fun facts about the Bahamas, or it was like some girl on a beach saying, I'm here in Thailand having fun. Like, that was the extent of geography education on YouTube. It was just like very rudimentary, or just people showing themselves, like travel vlogging. So I'm like, oh man, someone's got to make a educational channel. At the time, nobody had done a geography channel. So I was like, okay, I'll be the first one. I think I got really lucky because I jumped in at the moment when there was a demand in the market for that genre, but nobody had done it. So I became the first one. And I had a very specific vision on how I wanted to do it. I wanted 4 main segments: the political, physical, demographics, and diplomatic. Later, I called it friend zone part of every country. And it was a format that worked. Yeah. 10 years later, here we are.
Okay. Yeah. And so in the beginning, I mean, were you traveling, back to sort of the question of, were you going to all these countries and doing filming on the grounds? And I still say filming. I know it's stupid. I'm old school. It's like we know it's digital,
I would love it if I could travel to every single one of these countries. I do sometimes, not all the times, because those things cost money. So you got to have money.
And to do it in alphabetical order is almost like a logistical impossibility in some ways.
A nightmare. I don't even know how those people. There's. I think I went to the ETF festival, or the Extraordinary Travel Festival, where the people who have gone to every country in the world, they meet up in a convention. I think there's only like 300 known people in the world that have actually gone to every country in the world. And a lot of them, it took them like over a decade, 2 decades to accomplish. It's crazy. So,
yeah, but you've been to quite a few.
Yes. So right now I am on country 99, and I want India to be number 100. I've promised my Indian subscribers they are the largest Asian demographic on my channel. And I've been promising them for a long time that I would visit their country. And what better way than to go for my 100th? So I think that would be perfect. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it seems like I was watching the Brazil one. I mean, it seems like, I know you have your friend network, but then you also have the network within the community you've built on the channel. So how has that impacted your travels? Like being able to show up on the ground, kind of connect with the local people there that are subscribers that can show you around in a different way?
It is insane because my channel, although, of course, there's channels with a lot more subscribers, my channel is very international. It is insanely international. I can do a social media post and request to find any kind of contact in even the most remote areas of the world with the small, like in my Tuvalu episode, I found a girl who's actually from this country, Tuvalu. It has a population of like only 11,000. And it's a small island country in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's so hard to find these people. They're so impossible to find. And it just so happened she was going to school in Utah, and I got in contact with her, and I'm like, oh, I am flying you out to be in the episode. And she agreed. And my mom cooked Korean food for her, and she loved it. So yeah, it was good stuff.
That's so amazing. It's the good part of the internet. Right.
It really is. And I think that's one of my biggest quote unquote flexes of my channel. I can get people from all over the world. It's just part of what comes with the package of Geography Now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that curiosity that drove you to learn about every country in the world, like in depth in this way, where do you think that comes from?
This is a question I get a lot. And I really think it kind of stems from my childhood. I grew up in a diverse neighborhood in Chicago. In my school, I would hear kids, speaking multiple languages. A lot of them were bilingual. I would hear kids speaking things like Polish or Urdu or Greek. And I was curious, like, what is that? What are they speaking? And, where does that language come from? And then they would tell me. I'm like, Poland is over there, but we're here in America. Oh, that's far. And that's when I started to look at maps. And then I'm a visual learner. I can't learn anything unless if I see stuff or if you have a demonstration or if you dangle shiny objects in front of my face, whatever. Anything that's visual helps me learn. And maps were my favorite books because everything in that is visual. And not only that, but it corresponds to an entire world that we currently live in, and you can pinpoint where you are and where everything is. It was just fascinating to me, and I love complexity. I love looking at images with like those Where's Waldo books. Anything with complex designs and patterns and imagery all jammed into one. It actually calms me down. It's when things are bland and quiet and boring that it tortures me. Like I need chaos. I need some kind of form of chaos to calm down. And maps really, I guess, calmed me down.
Maps are like your Zen place, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's real too. It's just real. Yeah.
Yeah. I think some travelers out there listening can relate to that idea of like opening a map and just being like, okay, cool.
Yes.
Like, let's take a look here.
For hours. Yeah.
Yeah. But diving deep in the way you have, I mean, it's going to bring it to life in a different way because, well, it has to, because it's, even when I read about a place, for example, and I'm a visual learner as well, it's like you can only retain so much, but when you're creating content around it, and then you're creating the kind of content you are where it's, pretty in-depth and you're kind of making these different connections and trying to tie things together and summarize things, you have to get like a certain level of understanding of a place in order to speak to it. Through that process, I imagine you're just learning on a deeper level.
Yes. First of all, you're really good at these questions. Second of all, and second of all, that's my biggest secret of the channel. A lot of people wonder how they watch the channel. Like, how did you know that they're from the country? Like, how did you know that? How did you know that? We don't post that.
Like the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, how did you find out that information? And my secret is I just talk to people from the countries. Like. They are the best source. You can Wikipedia all you want, read all the books you need all day. And at the end of the day, you're not going to find out stuff that only the people know. The people of the country know the country better than anybody else. So that's why I like to reach out to my subscribers so much, because if anything, they know better than me. And why not have them involved in the channel as well? I like to feature them. I like to ask them to film themselves and do a segment in the show. Why not? And I'll even give them a little social media shout out if they want. Yeah, it's very interactive, and it's the best type of interactive because they get to be the star of the show and make their country proud.
I'm going to get your advice on YouTube stuff because it would be a big mistake not to ask for people that are interested in content creation and stuff, and also some destination recommendations. That stuff's coming. Going back to your question that you asked in the video I mentioned at the top, the sort of the existential question that you asked yourself in that video is like, why am I traveling? Why am I doing all this? Is it to fill some kind of hole, I think you said, or something like that. Like, did you ever land anywhere with that question for yourself? Because what you're doing is, traveling is a big part of that. And also, it's a busy job that you have. And I'm just wondering, like, after coming out of that experience and reflecting on your own travels, where have you landed with that question as of today? Like, this could change obviously in a month, but yeah, kind of where did you land with that?
Yeah. The more I meet other people who travel a lot, the more I realize they all have some kind of motivation as to why they do it. Some people do it just because they want to check off the list of countries. It's not even so much about really trying to absorb it, but they just want to check it off a list. And I don't judge them for that. Some people just want to do that. Fine. That's cool. Some people, they really want to immerse themselves and understand a place or whatever. That's great too. Me, I feel like I'm just naturally a very curious person. I want to see things I've never seen before. That's why I started Geography Now. I actually wanted to be a travel show host on this show called Globe Trekkery. It was on PBS.
Oh, dude, I'm a huge Globe Trekker fan.
You know that show? Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I've tried to get Ian on, the guy that created it.
Oh,
I've tried to email him.
Guy ever. I love that guy.
Do you know him?
Did you know Bradley Cooper was on that show?
Yeah. I forgot.
He was a host on that show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh yeah, I was a huge, because that to me was like the show that it was the closest thing to like real travel in a way.
Yes. And every country had like a different host, and all the hosts were so cool and they were fun and you felt like they were your friends, and they were so clever in the way how they did their videos and their scripts. It was really cool. But yeah, I wanted to be on that show. Yeah, I applied for it, and I didn't hear back. I don't know if they saw my interview or my video audition or whatever. Maybe they saw it, maybe they didn't. I don't know, but I just never heard back. So instead of beating myself up over it, I was just like, okay, what's this YouTube thing? I'll do my own globe checker thing. That's how it kind of started.
That's the beauty of this day and age, right?
Yeah, it's all digital. We're in the digital era.
I don't think I've ever shared this actually, but if people hear the music of this podcast, they'll hear the influence of Globe Trekker, because I found music that was sort of in the same vibe-ish of Globe Trekker, because I was a big fan as well. So that's pretty fun.
Are you talking about like the theme song or whatever?
Yeah, like the music I use for the intro for this podcast is kind of like that. Yeah, if you listen to the Globe, we'll link up to stuff in the show notes. You can check it out. Yeah. That's interesting to hear, because I'm a fan of that as well. And I love that idea of empowering yourself to be like, okay, well, if they're not going to pick me, I'm going to choose myself, because that's a part of this journey as well. Like the journey you're on is creating this channel and what you've built it up to. But there's a psychological element of like, okay, like I'm going to do this. And then, no matter how much imposter syndrome you have or whatever, which everybody I think battles at some point or various points continually, you still have to push forward. And so I'm just curious, like for you and for anybody listening too, that's on their own journey, battling imposter syndrome or whatever world they're working in, how did you kind of push past those moments? Like, do you have any advice?
Honestly, I still don't know who I am.
And who does?
I don't think anybody fully understands who they are anyway. So I can't really be an imposter because I don't even know what I would be imposting. If that makes sense. I'm just a guy who wants, like I said, I just want to see things I've never seen before. I always say my favorite destination is the place I've never been to. Am I trying to fulfill some kind of weird void in my soul that I don't know how to fulfill, and I think traveling is going to do it? I don't know, maybe, but at the end of the day, it just makes me happy, and I like sharing those experiences with my mom. And I actually thought about this. If I could stop traveling for the rest of my life, and just if it would guarantee that my mom lived a happy life for the rest of her life, would I do that? Would I get rid of traveling to give my mom a happy life? I'm like, yes, of course I would. Like, the thing that makes me ultimately happy is my mom. Like, she really is like the number one person in my life. And, when my dad passed away and I had to, provide for her, I was a little apprehensive. I was thinking, okay, I was a bachelor. I had my own place. And, now I have to take on this whole new social dynamic of having a dependent. And what is that going to look like? Turns out she's like the best roommate ever. Like, she has no, like, very low maintenance. She doesn't need me for all my friends love her. All my friends call her mom. All my friends, they could talk to her for hours. She gets along with anybody. She has this weird gift where she can just command respect, and people just want to listen to her and talk to her. It's weird. I don't do anything. It's all her. And she's just a cornerstone figure in my life. So yeah,
that's amazing, man. You're a good guy. I don't think everybody listening can say, oh, my mom would be the best roommate.
Well, you probably should, because moms are important. So yeah.
Well, absolutely. How long ago was it that your dad passed?
It was 2017, and he had brain cancer. So yeah, and
so you were a few years into the channel at that point.
I remember I got the call when I was working on the Brazil episode. And I believe he passed away shortly before the Gabon episode. It's weird. My memory works in episodes when it comes to that type of stuff. Like, I was working on this episode. So I think it was like 2016, and then 17 he passed away. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm really sorry, man. The channel starting when it did, obviously, like you said, maybe the timing was a bit fortuitous, but also you did it in a way that was authentic to you. And I think these are like sort of the intangibles, so to speak, when people find that sort of medium between like what people wouldn't be interested in seeing, and that's sort of aligned with your values and like how you authentically want to create. And I get all that from your channel, which I think is really cool. You know, it's obviously was a different time then. I don't know what to call it. I'm not like a super fan of the term content creators or whatever, but like, you know, podcasters, YouTubes, whatever, like on some level, a lot of people are creating content in different ways, if you want to call it that. Right. But let's say people are wanting to do this as a business, and, you know, the chicken and egg thing. You mentioned flying somebody out for a video. Like that's maybe not something you could have done earlier on, but then you have to make such high quality videos now to get seen. I feel like the videos on YouTube now are like professional television productions, like the ones that are getting like a lot of them. It's from my understanding. You know, any advice for the current or future potential content creators trying to solve the chicken and egg conundrum of like, I don't have any money, you know, how do I do the, you know, where does it start?
You know what? I've thought about this so much because it's actually kind of sad. I started YouTube in the golden age when creators had shoestring budgets. All they needed was their imagination, and they could get millions of views just for being really awesome at the way how they did things. Now it's like YouTube is filled with $1 million budget productions with high quality everything and special effects and everything, and then AI is now jumping in there, and now it's not even authentic. It's just like a computer generated algorithm that follows a format that they say will get you the best views. And it's just so industrial now. And it's a lot different from how it was when I started. YouTube has evolved into this, how can I describe it? It's like this, industrialized, chaotic digital machine that you have to follow a format that is has been studied. Whereas before it was just like you could just be a really cool character and get a lot of views just because you were the way you were. But now it's almost like it demands that you follow a format of shock, clickbaity stuff with very short, how can I put it? Short form content that's less than a minute and probably less than 30 seconds that gets people hooked in. It's always about the hook, and it's about the clickbait, and it's about the thumbnail. It's like, and I kind of hate that. It's very structured and formatted with to an audience with short term, very what do you call it? Short attention spans. It just caters to people with short. I have a short attention span too, but I also like depth and quality. But I don't know. So I would say if you want to get into the content creator quote unquote world. You might have to feed that format and algorithm now, but I will say this. You have to love what you're doing because that will exude through you. If you want to do it for the sake of getting a career, you have to get good at writing. Writing is one of the most important things I realized making my videos because everything is going to hinge off of how well you can present in front of the camera. If you're just spitballing and improvising right there on the spot, you got to get good at that too. If there's no script and it's all just you in the moment, then you got to be good at improvising. You got to be good at communicating in public speaking. You have to be able to know how to edit. You have to know post-production. You have to know how to operate a camera. You have to know how to upload and how to render a completed video with VFX and animations and motion graphics, all that stuff. There's so much that goes into it. And now it's actually getting a little easier because of new programs that are coming out, especially like CapCut. Everybody's using CapCut. Everybody's using these editing softwares on their phones. Anybody could do it. High school kids are doing it now. I just wish we could go back to the golden age where people were clever and creative on shoestring budgets and having fun. I wish we could go back to that.
Well, I mean, do you think some of this is coming up because you're about to close the chapter or close the book, I would say, on a big chapter of your life related to this project, and again intertwined with your life, I feel, because you set out 10 years ago to have this series of in-depth videos for every country in the world in alphabetical order, and you're editing the last one. Yeah. How do you feel just like wrapping up the project? Or is it just like, man, I'm just shipping it and moving on to the next thing? or is it more like, oh man, like, am I going to do something else with my life now? Like on that spectrum, where are you? Because I feel like these moments in life, they happen to everybody, right? Everybody's got their own version of that, where you get to either the end of a big thing or you get to a decision point and you're like, oh, whatever I do here, like after this, yeah, it's going to take me on a certain path, and there's many paths I can choose. Which one am I going to choose type of thing?
Yeah, no, I've thought of, obviously we all knew this was going to come, the Zimbabwe episode. All my subscribers knew, I knew. So I've thought really hard about how I was going to get to this last episode and how I was going to do it. And one thing I did, and I already announced this, was I actually went to Zimbabwe and I did a group trip with 18 of my subscribers. So you're going to see them in the video. And I filmed the episode in Zimbabwe. I have filmed some episodes in other countries too when I've traveled, but this one is, it's a little different. You'll see. It's not just me doing the typical Geography Now format. I don't want to reveal it until the video comes out, but there's a really good ending. And I had all of my co-hosts in the episode. I have 5 co-hosts or 4 co-hosts. Yeah. Let's see, Keith, Hannah, Art, Noah, me, and Caleb. Yeah, so 5 other co-hosts. And I just gave them a moment where they could ad-lib and speak from the heart for their final country episode. This is not the last time you're going to see them. I definitely want my co-hosts to be involved in the channel in the future. But yeah, after the Zimbabwe episode is over, I kind of had a little, like you said, existential crisis. Like, what am I going to do next? What's my next move? And I have ideas. I don't know if they're going to work, but I know that they're ideas that I want to do because I'm excited for them and I'm happy for them, and it's going to make me happy. If you want to join along for the ride, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, it's a bunch of new ideas that I have coming out, and I'll just say that it involves a lot of traveling. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No surprise there, I guess. Well, it sounds like your mom likes to travel too, so maybe you guys will be taking some trips together. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because after my dad passed away, well, before he passed away, she had never traveled. The only place she traveled to was Korea. And Japan one time. Yeah, to go back to the motherland. So yeah, but she had never stepped outside of those 2 countries until after my dad passed away, and now, because of her coming with me on my trips, she's gone to I think over 45 countries now. It's crazy. So yeah.
That must feel awesome for you to give that gift of travel to your mother who you care so much about.
When I see her in being shocked by something new, that's the best feeling ever. Like when we drove through Montenegro and we saw the mountains by the coast, her shocked face, and I have it on camera and I recorded it. And when she saw the Eiffel Tower for the first time, when she saw elephants in Zimbabwe, when she saw, I don't know, a soursop fruit in Vietnam, her shocked face, that's the real gold that I'm looking for when I travel with her. I want her to see things she's never seen before, just like what I like to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I get that through my kids, same kind of thing.
You understand. Wow, yeah.
This is so cool. And, having relatives come over too and see the Norwegian fjords for the first time, for example, it's just
yeah. By the way, how are you liking it out there? Yeah.
I like it, man. I mean, the weather can be challenging sometimes, but,
sure.
Yeah, I have to watch the Norway video. That's one I haven't watched on your channel.
Why Norway? If I got to ask you a question, why Norway?
Well, it's the old story. Man travels to Brazil, meets Norwegian girl at hostel, and reconnects with her 4 years later, blah, blah, blah. Then they get married and have 2 kids. It's the typical tale.
There you go. That's all it takes.
I joke around with my wife because, during the winter, I'm like, we were in Brazil. I could have met a Brazilian. I met a Norwegian. Now I'm over here freezing my butt off. No, it's okay.
Oh, you love it, though.
I like to ski. It's okay. I like to ski. What are a few places that you've been that make you think kind of why don't more people travel here? This is incredible. Why is this not more popular?
Oh, a lot of places I've been to. The most recent one I've been to, I'd probably say, is Uzbekistan, and Central Asia. Anything pretty much in Central Asia. They are growing in popularity these days, though. So I'm noticing a lot more tourism boards being promoted. for especially to the American audience. Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, but yeah, I went to Uzbekistan for the Uzbekistan episode. Uh, Amazing history. Oh my goodness, it's just you see the actual Silk Road, and all the stopover points: Bukhara, Samarkand, and Khiva. My favorite city in Uzbekistan being Khiva, by the way. You can literally stay at an Airbnb in the ancient fortress, and you wake up and it's like you're in a castle, and it's all traditional. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite places I've ever stayed. And definitely West Africa. Anything West Africa. I first of all, the food. I love anything with fufu. Like the stews, the spicy stews that you eat with the spongy textured fufu, and you dip it with your hands. It's so good. But also, it's developing like crazy. Like I went to Togo and Lome, the city. It is bustling. They have the largest port, I believe, one of the largest ports in West Africa. All the Google fiber optic cables go through Lome port. So they have a very strategic standpoint in the West African region, where they can really capitalize off of that. And you see how that kind of bleeds into the economy and the whole people and the structure of the area that they're around, and how it, affects their trade sector. It's fascinating to watch how these areas are growing. Batumi, Georgia, the Caucasus region, Armenia, Georgia, Azerbaijan, those places. Oh my goodness. I could go on and on, man. Like there's so many.
I mean, please go on and on, because we love some hidden gem recommendations here, sort of like the lesser known kind of places.
Sure.
So if you want to go on and on, go on and on. We'll take it.
Oh my God. I'll say one more that I'm really proud that I got to see that very few people get to see: Annobon Island in Equatorial Guinea. First of all, Equatorial Guinea in general, very few people even go there at all. I think it ranked like one of the top 5 least visited places in the world, let alone, just Africa. But yeah, they have 2 main islands, Bioko and Annobon. Annobon is the most difficult place to get to because there are no commercial jets. There's only like government-owned airlines that are allowed to go there, and they are not regularly scheduled. We were allowed to go on one of these government airlines. And when you arrive there, it's like the whole island is centered around one extinct volcano, and it has a lake called Caldera Lake at the top. And I got to swim in it, and it's beautiful. And there's a small village at the bottom, and it's so remote. And they haven't seen tourists. Like some of them have never even seen tourists at all. So that's the type of place I love going, where they have never seen tourists, and I have the whole place to myself. That's what I aspire.
Yeah, what was that like when you were there? I mean, when you actually ran across people that had never seen tourists before, what was that?
Well, first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to document it, and I wanted to show it and like show the world and get drone footage, and I'm like, hey, wow, look at this place. To me, that's the best type of travel. Because I like to describe myself as acutely anaclophobic, which means I don't like huge crowds. I don't like it when there's too many people trying to do the same thing at once, trying to see the same thing. It just annoys me. I don't like it when there's too many people around trying to do the same thing. I like it when I have full domain of wherever I am, and I can enjoy it just for myself or just the few people that I'm with. That to me, that's the best type of place to be.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
and so these places you mentioned, you were getting that feeling where it's like, you're not around sort of the masses. You're more, I mean, you might be around a lot of local people, but it's not like you said, there's 2,000 people at the same, thermal bath in Iceland or whatever.
yeah, these are places that, first of all, have very difficult access. And if you have access, you will have full domain of free range all for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great feeling, man, especially when you're in the moment there and you're just like, it's cool.
I bet you have some of that in Norway. You have that, what is it, that law, the free roaming law, where you can just kind of camp anywhere you want.
Yeah, Allemannsrett. Yeah.
Yes, that one, yes.
There's yes. I can combine that with the friluftsliv, which is like, every man's right. And then you have like the sort of fresh air life combined together, which means you can just, pretty much go off and camp as long as I forget the law. It's like you need to be like 100 meters from a house or something.
Yeah, like you can't go in someone's backyard, obviously, but like everything else is like open game.
Like mass tourism everywhere. I mean, a lot of people will come and see the main sites, but there are so many places where you can stop and
Yeah.
just see.
I think you chose
nature.
a great place, Norway. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite hikes I've done here was, I think we saw like 2 other people on it or something, compared to like I've done the Instagram hikes, I'm using air quotes, like the ones that sort of get the most publicity, and you're like just walking up with a line of people. That's kind of like that's the juxtaposition you're referring to here, I think. Hope you enjoyed the first part of my conversation with Paul. We're going to get back to that in a few minutes, but I thought it would be fun to break it up a little bit today and share with you the first edition of our new segment, the 5 best road trips in the USA. I'm having so much fun putting this together for you. As you may or may not know, I spent over 10 years working as a touring professional, traveling all over the United States, nomadically, basically one giant road trip that was about a decade long. And I found a lot of places all over the US that were near and dear to my heart. And I thought this would be a great format to share some of my favorite road trips with you from my time out on tour all across the US. So as part of this special mini-series, each week you're going to discover one new unforgettable trip in a region of the United States. I'm going to give you a breakdown of why the trip is worth doing, a suggested itinerary, along with a sampling of a variety of the things that you can see and do, and of course eat along the way. And the first question I have before we dive in, what makes every trip you take unique and unlike anyone else's, even though you may be visiting the same place? It's your willingness to dive into a destination and explore it your way. That creates your on-the-ground experience, of course. And it's your willingness to travel, to get out of your comfort zone and embrace all of the uncertainties that come with that. And I think it serves as an excellent reminder to yourself that you're capable of great things. You're able to embrace the impossible, makes you an icon of adventure. And speaking of icons of adventure, I do want to say a massive thank you to another icon of adventure, Defender, for supporting this special mini-series. Defender is truly the ultimate road trip vehicle for many reasons, including its legendary durability, both off-road and on, its cargo capacity, and the fact that it's tested to the extreme. Defender's family of vehicles includes the 90, 110, or the 130, which has 8 seats with a tough, rigid body design. It's been reimagined for a new generation of explorers. That is you. You can design your own Defender, actually, at LandRoverUSA.com. Now, today, thanks to our friends at Defender, we're taking you up north to the northern part of the United States. We're going to cover 5 different areas in this mini-series today. We're going north to an all too often overlooked hidden gem, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. All the Michiganders out there, you might be like cheering, yeah, woohoo, all the Yoopers. We'll talk about the Yoopers in a minute. We're going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. One of my road trips that I took that I didn't have a whole lot of preconceived notions going into it. It just blew me away. Now, if you've ever met somebody from Michigan and you ask them where they're from, you've probably seen the hand. You've experienced the hand. They hold up their right hand vertically, palm facing you, and point to where they're from because you guessed it, their state is shaped just like your hand if you hold it right. And where we're headed today in this underrated beauty of a state isn't on that hand. You need to stack your other hand on top horizontally to represent the northern part of Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, otherwise known as the UP. Of course, anytime you travel somewhere, you got to talk about the people. It's one of the best reasons to go anywhere is the people, and the UP is no exception. I think the people are salt of the earth, really. And we're talking about the Yoopers. If you want to spell that out, it's Yoopers. That's what the residents of the UP call themselves. And in some ways, I think it's more of a spirit than a geographical indicator. It's about many things. They could speak to it more than I can, but the sense that I get from the Yoopers is, it's about resilience. It's about slowing down, being out in nature, being down to earth, embracing all sorts of weather, having a generally positive attitude, fun. I mean, that's what I can say about the Yoopers. They're just great people. And it's been said that you need to survive 7 winters to be a true Yooper up in the UP. I don't know. I mean, some people say you have to have been born there. Either way, you must embrace the Youper mentality when you're traveling in the UPs. You can slow down, get outside, explore, have that good-natured kind of attitude, and be out in nature in all types of weather. They definitely have to do that up there. And here are some of the things you can do. Let's talk about the place. Now, outside of the people, to me, the best way they explore the UP is, of course, by taking a road trip, which we're talking about today. As I mentioned, I took a memorable 10-day excursion through the UP. I'm going to share a few of the highlights that I hit up, maybe a bucket list destination or two that I didn't get to hit up. Now, the first stop, I'm going to send you to Mackinac Island. I'm going to say at least 3 nights, 4 relaxing days, because Mackinac Island, the entire island, if you haven't heard about it, is a national historical landmark. It's not really off the beaten path. People know of it. But it's an incredible experience because it's like a throwback. It's a travel back in time type of situation. There are no motorized vehicles on the island. Island covers 4.35 square miles. And to get around, you have to rent a bike. You know, you can rent a horse, I think, even. I just remember we stayed in a pretty charming B&B type place and rented a bike, decided to do some golfing, and it just felt so cool and raw and old school, like 1930s golfing or something. I had to rent a bike and like stack these old clubs on top of the handlebars and pedal down to the golf course. You know, you can ride your bike and go buy some fudge somewhere, sit on a rocking chair on the porch. You're going to have to leave your Defender back where you caught the ferry. But while you're on the island, you can enjoy the sounds of nature. No motorized vehicles, so that's pretty cool, and that's kind of what makes this a unique stop. So Mackinac Island, definitely a place I would recommend. Now, take the ferry back when you're done, get back in your Defender, and drive over to Oswald's Bear Ranch near Newberry, Michigan. This is one of these places that I stumbled upon. And if you want to talk about an unexpected travel experience. So first of all, this is the largest bear-only bear ranch in the entire USA. Dean and his wife, Jewel, have been raising rescue bear cubs since 1997. When I was there, they hadn't even been open for that long. And you know, Dean just kind of seemed like one of those approachable guys. I remember just sitting down with him. I just wanted to like get to know somebody who would run a place like this. You know, what is it like? And kind of having this chat. And I guess I built up enough rapport with him to have the guts to ask him, stupidly, if he wouldn't mind if he could take me into one of the bear cages and let me pet a bear. What was I thinking? I actually have photographic evidence of this somewhere, printed out pictures somewhere in some box. If I ever dig them up, I'll put them back on the show notes here. You know, for better or worse, against my own judgment and my own sense of survival, I went into the bear cage with Dean. And, you know, a couple bears walking around, and got to pet them and got out of there pretty quickly, unharmed. And so, yeah, that was not maybe the smartest thing to do, but it certainly was an experience. Anyway, Oswald's Bear Ranch, pretty unique place to check out. Now, moving on down the road. Make your third stop. This is one of those places where when I went, again, I didn't have any grand expectations. I just thought, oh, this would be a great place to do some exploration in the outdoors. And then I was proceeded to be blown away. It's still one of my all-time favorite national parks and a true hidden gem. It's Pictured Rocks National Seashore. Stunning, multicolored sandstone cliffs, miles of gorgeous beaches, sand dunes, forests, incredible waterfalls, over 100 miles of epic hiking, trails, jaw-dropping walks along this otherworldly blue Lake Superior, one of the Great Lakes. You can explore it by foot. You can explore it by kayak. You can crawl. I mean, whatever you want to do, I don't think you can go wrong. It's a beautiful area. Well, maybe crawling would be a little tiring. I don't know. You might get a little sandy, but you get the idea. I would spend at least 2 or 3 days exploring this area. You could do even more. You could, you know, you could stay out in the wilderness and extend it as long as you want. But no doubt you should make your way to Pictured Rocks National Seashore and take in the beauty. It's an incredible place. Now, moving on. I will leave the rest of the trip up to you. I kind of designed this as a little bit of a loop. You can choose your own adventure here. From here, you could perhaps head to Marquette if you want some of those small town, college town type vibes. Another place that can also double as a great base to explore nature. If you want more nature, you can head to what is affectionately called the Porkies, aka the Porcupine Mountain Wilderness State Park. According to their website, quote, features 60,000 acres of old-growth forest, roaring waterfalls, Lake Superior shoreline, rivers, trails, and ridges. The park's incomparable vistas make Michigan's largest state park popular destinations for camping, hiking, snowmobiling, fishing, and more. Oh, and if you want to go to a massive rodeo and you're there in July, swing by Iron River, Michigan. You can catch the UP Championship Rodeo that's been going strong for over 50 years. If you want beaches, you're going to find plenty along Lake Superior and other places. And if you want to visit a rugged, isolated island to see some moose and other wildlife, this is still one of those bucket list items for me. The Isle Royale National Park is one of the least visited national parks in the U.S. It's only open during certain periods of the year. It's a bucket list one for me. And if you have time, I'd love to hear your experience there. And on and on. You know, it's no shortage of things to do in the UP. Now, after all that exploring, I'm sure you're hungry. So we got to talk about the food. And, you know, you heard me mention at the beginning that Defender is an icon of adventure. Well, the icon of the UP, at least when it comes to the culinary scene, is the pasty. Not the pasty, the pasty. I made sure I pronounced that correctly so none of the Michiganders jump down my throat. The pasty is essentially a meat pie. Imagine an empanada-like food. You got a hearty dough stuffed with chopped meat and potato and onion, rutabaga, maybe some carrots if it's made by someone of Finnish descent. It's pinched together and baked, meant to be picked up and eaten with your hands. Classic hand food. Originally, it came from the miners that came from England. They brought this to the UP as a staple, sort of their version of fast food. You could think of it as something they could easily eat on the go, keep them filled up all day, stick to your ribs kind of food. So if you're rolling through the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, you're going to have ample opportunity to sample the local pasties. And you can even find places where you can make your own. So my pick for the northern United States, take a road trip in the UP of Michigan. You're going to love it. Okay, before we dive back in to my conversation with Paul, I do want to thank our friends at Defender who love a great road trip like this. I want to thank them for supporting this special 5 Best Road Trips in the USA mini-series that's coming your way in the coming weeks, all geared to helping you discover your next great adventure. Check out the ultimate road trip vehicle, the Defender. Defender's family of vehicles includes the 90, 110, or 130. This icon of adventure with a tough, rigid body design has been reimagined for a new generation of explorers. That is you. Design your Defender at LandRoverUSA.com. Thanks for listening. This is like a loaded question a bit because you're just a curious person. I think we have like a little kinship there. You know, you're kind of going to you're going to be interested because you're there, but it's like a slippery slope when you start comparing and trying to like assess and rank and all this stuff. We do some list stuff here just for fun.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I try to like take a place for what it is. But on that note, I mean, do you feel like there's some places you've been where you felt like, you know, this is like a little overrated. I don't need to go back here. Not because of the people or, you know, because the culture was bad or anything, but just like you didn't vibe with it.
You know, I have to be very objectively honest about this. And I didn't really like Rome that much. And I'm part Italian. Like I was trying to like embrace Italy and all that, but Rome was so crowded. It was the more than Paris. Like my goodness, it was. I couldn't go. I went to the Vatican, and I know that's separate, Vatican and Rome, but like obviously I wanted to go there as well. I couldn't take 2 steps in front of myself without bumping into a Chinese tourist holding a flag. It was the absolute most crowded and packed. The Vatican Museum. I couldn't really even enjoy it, and my mom's with me, and I'm trying to make her enjoy it. But the Basilica was a little more spacious, but the museum was packed. And every site, Trevi Fountain and the Colosseum and all the sites just packed and packed and packed, and it really kind of ruined it for me. But I absolutely fell in love with Napoli. I That is my favorite city in all of Italy. And it was not packed at all, and it was 10 times more beautiful in my opinion, with way more amazing sights that I found more fascinating and riveting. I mean, you got the huge Vesuvius volcano right there, just smack dab in the middle, like at the south of the city, and it's just majestic in all its glory, even though it killed a lot of people in the past, but still it's amazing. And it's right by the coast. You get the ocean. Rome doesn't have an ocean, it doesn't have a coast, it doesn't have the sea. It's just inland. Naples is beautiful. I don't know. It's I think Naples deserves more love in Italian tourism. So yeah,
I feel you on that, man. I mean, the last time I went to Rome was it the third or fourth time, and it was in a February, and I thought, okay, well this time it's not going to be insane. But it was the same thing, like at the Vatican. It's just you're just like in this river of people, and you can't almost stop and look at the art. It's crazy. Yeah, it was my wife's first time there, so we had to do like the main things. But if I'm going back, that's it. I'm done with the main things there. I'm going to check out some other stuff. That's a good example of kind of like, and this has been coming up a lot on the show too, like this idea of like alternative destinations. Like, here's the crowded one, but go here instead, because you're going to get not the same experience, but you're going to get some, incredible stuff and less people. Yeah.
I actually did a video about this. I made my own ranking index.
Okay. Well, you want to share some of them with us? Like a few of your faves?
I call it the pop care index. Prevalence of people crowding around, ruining everything. Oh yeah.
Nice acronym, dude.
Yeah, I used to call it poop care, but that's a little crude. So I'm just like, I'll change it to pop care. So yeah, prevalence of people crowding around, ruining everything. And it ranks from 1 to 5. I think 5 is the most crowded, and 1 is like the best where there's nobody. So yeah.
I mean, can you share a couple of them just so then we can link to the video?
Yeah. That was an old video, by the way. It was like one of the earliest videos I made. It was a long time ago. But if I could rank from my travels that I've done right now, I just got back from Afghanistan, and I will say Bandemir Lake is probably close to a 1 on my pop care index, where it's very few, almost no tourists, and you can enjoy it all for yourself. And it's the most crystal clear blue lake I've ever seen in my life. And it's glacier water, so it's freezing. If you swim in it, you get shocked, but it's really cool and it's a fun experience. They have duck boats, and like these Afghani men, they're wearing their what do you call it, the Parahantamban, the jama thing with the long sleeves and everything, but they're like riding these duck boats, so it looks kind of funny. And they just opened it up to women too. They used to be closed to families and women, but now women and families are allowed to go again. So they finally opened it up to everybody. And it is just one of the most beautiful places. The Hindu Kush mountain range, snow-capped mountains, with these crystal clear blue lakes. Nobody around to ruin it for you. Yeah, I'd have to say that's probably that and Annobon Island that I told you about in Equatorial Guinea. Those are probably like 1 or close to 1 on the pop care index.
Okay.
In my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, that's like the golden ideal, that type of vibe. I got it. You mentioned Afghanistan, and not to pick on that specifically, because people come back and they have these incredible stories of the kindness of the people and everything, and we know that a place on the ground is different than a place in the media, but then you have this oppressive, government with some of these policies that are, very hard to support or reconcile with, I guess. I don't really know how to put it into words. I think people know what I'm referring to. And I'm just wondering for you, how do you, somebody that's been focused on, wanting to share, paint a picture of a country and give people a real vibe of what it is and what the people are, not necessarily the power structures that are controlling it or represented in the media, right? Like those are almost like two different things, right? But, to go to a country and kind of support it with your travel dollars, let's say, like, how do you feel about that? Do you have any qualms about, like, if you don't agree with what a government's doing at a certain place, that you shouldn't go? Or how do you feel about that?
one of the biggest lessons I've learned throughout 10 years of doing this job is that very often governments are not the clearest indication of the people of a country. They're not always. It's not always the case where they are a viable representation of the people. And you cannot fully understand something until you actually go out and see it and experience it. You can read as many articles as you want. You can get a bunch of political pundits' opinions on something and blah, blah, blah. They'll say what they want, and they'll have their little Wikipedia research at ready to throw some, shade on your opinions or whatever. Sure. And they might be right in many ways, and that's true. I'll say this about Afghanistan. Everybody knows, obviously, the way how their political system is structured right now after the whole withdrawal of the U.S. back in, 2021 or something, 2022? I forgot what it was. But yeah, that was the whole world was watching that. And now Afghanistan is in the situation that it is in right now. And I actually did this as a preface to my letter to Afghanistan video that I made. It's a lot more nuanced than people seem to make it out in media. And you have to kind of just talk to the people there to really understand it. Obviously, not everybody is happy with the way how things are, but they are trying hard to figure ways to move forward because they know the world is watching and the world is much bigger than them. And that's kind of the situation they're in. They're kind of pressured to figure out new ways to move forward based off of the fact that they know they have a very tarnished reputation in many ways. So the standing government right now, I don't know how you want to refer it to them. We call them the TBs. The TBs, they know how the world perceives them, and they're trying to figure out what to do with the perception, because the global perception is very important. They know that it's a small country, and they have to somehow figure out how to manage this whole country. I do not approve of all the things that they do. Of course, obviously, nobody agrees with everything that a government does, but I wanted to just see it for myself, and I just wanted to meet the people, and I just wanted to show the world what is going on. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that perspective for sure. I was just curious. Yeah. I mean, you probably met Jackie Kunst at the Extraordinary Traveler Festival. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
My buddy Gunnar Garfors, who's a Norwegian.
Oh, I think I, in passing, met Gunnar. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's been to every country in the world twice, which is insane.
Yeah.
But his girlfriend,
the kind of shorter guy, right?
Yeah.
My friend Gus is really close friends with him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and we've had him on the show, and Jackie as well, and I brought her up because she shared the story on the podcast. She went to Afghanistan as the first solo sort of female traveler, independently, not with because there are some groups now that will take you, and a lot of people do the group trips. She did it with she was one of the first ones to do it after it opened up again, I guess. And she shared a story where she was on a bus and she had she was covered in everything with the Taliban came on the bus, and one of them sat behind her and put his feet up on her head with his shoes off, and had his feet propped up resting on her head for 4 hours straight, which is totally degrading and horrible and traumatic probably on many levels. And so I'm just bringing it up, not to be a downer, because but there's the male female perspective of what it might be like to visit a place too, of course.
Yeah. The way I see it, I'm giving my money to the people, I'm giving my money to the jewelry seller on the street, the guy selling the coconut water on the street, the guy who needs to get a new shirt for his kids, buying a book at the bookstore on the street. I don't know. That's how I perceive it. I'm giving it to the people. I'm not directly feeding the government. I'm giving it to the people.
I got you, man. I'm not. That's not that wasn't an accusation or anything. I just wanted to share that story.
No, I know.
It's complicated, right? This is not. It's not we're not going to come to any resolution about it in this conversation. But I was just curious what your kind of take was on traveling to those places. But I'm getting the vibe kind of I agree. There is. You meeting the people on the ground, it's how you're getting to know the place, supporting the people and the local businesses. That's a great approach. I
I've
think.
read comments on my videos. Some people were like, "How could you go there? How could you go there? How could you support blah blah blah?" And like, like those comments are going to come anyway. Yeah, I look. I'm willing to go anywhere, anywhere. That doesn't mean I affirm everything about the way how people do things. It just means I'm curious. I want to see things, and I want to learn, and I want to show my subscribers what I've learned. That's pretty much it.
I think that's such a pure intention, man. I love that about your work. And I think, you know, you have to acknowledge all of these various shades of gray, right? It's like a duality, right? Like you can be an environmentalist and care about the planet and still somebody who orders from Amazon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like that. Exactly.
And it's about self-awareness. I think it's just kind of like, all right, I know I'm ordering from Amazon now. Maybe that's not good. Maybe I shouldn't do it next time or whatever. I mean, nobody's perfect. It's just like, yeah. But being aware of your values, I think is an important thing because that can get infused in everything you do. Right. I think it is important to infuse it in the things you do. That is the thing that can like actually distinguish you in business too. Right. Like just kind of like aligning with your values and being authentic.
Now, how marketable can you be by being an authentic person? I don't know. I'm still learning that lesson. Like, because a lot of times content creators, they have to follow the algorithm, and being yourself might not always be advantageous in this day and age. I hate that, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
The world is evolving in such a weird way.
But I think, I don't know, it seems to me that you are being yourself. And, sometimes you have to be yourself within certain frameworks. And that's
true. I will admit sometimes on the channel, though, I have had to like compromise. Like I had to do maybe a sponsorship that I wasn't really that passionate about, but I had to do it for the money. In my earlier days, I had to do that sometimes just because I needed the money. Every YouTuber does it.
Yeah, but that's like supporting the overall cause, which is to put the videos out and to educate and inform and all that. So, we all have to sort of like toe these lines. You've mentioned the people. I always love to hear the stories from the ground. And I'm just wondering, like for you, having been to so many places and, interacted with so many local people in countries all over the world, every country in the world, actually, can you share a story or two of a person that you met that like taught you a lesson in some way that really has stuck with you?
Ooh, I think the biggest lesson I learned was going back to the motherland in Korea. I got to see my grandmother one last time before she passed away last year. I have a kind of complicated relationship with Korea. I used to go there as a kid for these church retreats. I grew up going to a Korean church, and when I was in high school, I had just graduated high school. I'm a senior, and I just finished graduating. And I went to these summer retreats, and one of the pastors, he told me to stay in the church to teach English. And I took the offer, and my parents were against it. They're like, Paul, just come back, go to college, go to university or whatever. Don't stay there. And you just graduated high school, like whatever, you're still learning about life. And I defiantly said, Mom and Dad, you don't get me. I'm 18 years old. I know what I'm doing. And yeah. And turns out, that was a very bad decision because they kind of just exploited me because I spoke English. They broke all their promises. Like they didn't pay me. They just gave me room and board, and I don't know. It was a bad experience. So I ended up leaving that thing, that whole program, and I crawled back to Mom and Dad. It was really bad. And that put a sour taste in my mouth for anything Korea. From that moment on, I stopped trying to be Korean. I didn't really want to be Korean. I didn't want to speak it. I didn't care for it. When I was in high school, I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed with trying to reclaim my Korean identity. But then I had this bad experience, and then I was like, forget it. I'm done with the Korean thing. I don't even want to think about it. Which is funny because both my parents speak Korean, and they're both half Korean, and they both were born and raised in Korea. So I'm living with my parents, but my parents never tried to push me to be Korean. they have a whole other story going on. But yeah, basically, I just kind of pushed off Korea for 16 years. And then my grandma is getting sick and she wants us to come to Korea for her birthday. And so my mom and I are like, okay, let's go. This is the first time I had been in Korea in 16 years. The country had changed so much. It's crazy. When I went there, all these buildings had not been built yet. And the K-pop wasn't even popular back then. It was like now K-pop and K-dramas are like world renowned. And I don't know, Korea has just been such a global force at this point today. But back then it was just developing. And now I go back and it's crazy. Like now I'm in Korea, but without the weird, church school thing that kind of burned me. And I'm an adult and I have money and I can do what I want and I can explore the country on my own and I'm here with my grandma I recorded myself doing this, but I remember my dad, he taught me this Korean song. It's called Set Taryong, which means the Ballad of the Birds. And it's in the traditional Korean style singing. And he taught me this song. And for my grandma's birthday, I remembered this song and I sang it to her while playing the Korean drums. Like it's the one thing that I remembered that my dad taught me. And when I did that, that was like, I felt proud of being Korean again. Like I'm in the motherland and I'm reclaiming this piece of me that I tried to shove away for 16 years. And then suddenly I was in love with Korea all over again. It's like this thing got reignited. And I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my travel experiences. Seeing my grandma one last time and reigniting this thing that was always inside of me that I tried to hide.
Oh my gosh, that's like, thanks for sharing that. That's super powerful, especially with music in that moment. Like gave me chills, got kind of thinking, putting myself where you are in that moment and how that must have felt for you all at once, but maybe overwhelming in some ways.
Yeah, it was, I needed that trip. I really did.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I did it. And I got to share it with my mom too. So yeah, it was another mom-son thing. So yeah.
Can you sing like a bar or two of that song so we can get the vibe of it?
I think my mom's trying to sleep right now. I don't want to wake her up, but I'll try.
Okay.
I'll try
we won't put
quiet.
you on the spot unless you
I'll
want
do it
to.
a little quiet. I'll do a little quiet for you guys. So it starts like 새가 날아든다. 왠가 찹새가 날아든다. You gotta like warble your voice a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
There's like a screaming part, and I'm not gonna scream, but yeah, there's a
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I was just wanting. I love music. I was just wanting to get the vibe of it because you mentioned it was like a traditional song, and I wanted to hear what that sounded like. So that was cool. Yeah. So after that moment, how did reconnecting with that side of you and your identity did it change how you approach life, or what? From that moment on, what changed, like on a day-to-day basis?
I feel like I don't know. I felt more proud. I guess I felt more proud of my identity and my heritage. Actually, that kind of made me want to. When I finished the Zimbabwe episode, there's one thing I really want to do, and I've been wanting to do this for a long time. But the weird catch-22 situation is that I couldn't do it because I was busy with geography now. The one thing that provides for me is the one thing hindering me. I want to find my biological grandfather from my mom's side. My mom never met her biological father shortly after she was born. He was an American soldier, and back in those days, all American soldiers in the Korean War were required to be deployed back to the U.S. A lot of them had children with the Korean women in Korea, which is how my parents were born. And shortly after she was born, she was only like 2 months old. He was deployed back to the U.S. and he wrote letters back to my grandma. But after that, they just stopped communicating, and we don't know where he is or what. We have his name. We have some information on him. So it's not impossible to find him, but we just never took the initiative to jump on the opportunity to find him. So I think now it's time. It's time to find my grandpa.
Okay. Love that intention. Yeah. Man, I know it's the middle of the night for you. I want to respect your time. I do have a few more questions if that's
I'm good.
okay.
I'm good.
Okay,
Don't worry.
Cool. some of these questions that people ask are what's your favorite country? What's this? What's that? It's like unfair. How do you rank favorite? So I'm not going to say favorite, and I'm not going to ask a country question, but just for people in terms of I think obviously, as we discussed, there are warm, incredibly friendly people all over the world, but locking in a certain place, some people that you really felt like a warmth and connection with, maybe a little bit even more than some other places in some way. It doesn't, I'm not saying your favorite or the happiest people in the world or anything like that. That's too broad strokes, but
Sure.
you get the vibe of the question, I think.
Yeah. And this is actually a question I get a lot and it's always oh, I have to be careful because my subscribers are all going to fight for the number one spot. Oh, why don't you say this country? Why don't you say my country? Whatever.
Yeah, it's not number one. We're not saying number one, okay?
Yeah, but I will say this. There's always going to be a spot in my heart for Denmark, because it was the first European country I ever went to. And I only went there because I wanted to speak to a Greenlandic person, because Greenland is under the sovereignty of Denmark to some extent. I know they have autonomy, but Denmark is overarchingly in charge of them. So yeah, it's because I was really fascinated with the Greenlandic language. So I couldn't go to Greenland because it was too expensive, but I could go to Denmark and meet Greenlandic people in Copenhagen because there's a small Greenlandic community there. Because it's part of their constituent countries. But in doing so, I found out how much I loved Denmark and how great it was and how cozy it was. They have this word, hygge. I'm sure you know about it. Hygge, the Danish.
Yeah,
the cozy word thing. Yeah. And it really is just like a warm, cozy country. And it's so comfortable. I loved it. But then I also went to eventually I actually did go to Greenland. I was sponsored to go there by Air Greenland, the airline. They wanted me to do content on Greenland. And I got sponsored twice to go there. And here's the thing. I don't even like cold weather. I hate cold weather. That's why I moved to LA, because I was sick and tired of the blizzards of Minnesota where I grew up, and I didn't want to be cold. But for some reason, the cold places keep calling me back, and I'm so fascinated by them, especially in the Arctic area, the Arctic Circle, the Inuit peoples. Greenland is like a completely different planet. It's just rock and ice, little few grasses here and there, and lichens. And yet these people have been able to adapt and thrive in it for so long. And it's not just the adults, even the little children. I met a 14-year-old schoolgirl on the street, and she was like, yeah, I shot a muskox the other day and fed my family. And I'm just
that's not a sentence you hear every day.
No, it's crazy. So, it's like these Greenlandic people, they're so badass, and they know how to handle situations. And I know, and they live in one of the most inhospitable places on earth, but they know how to make it work. Yeah. And to me, that is fascinating. I'm drawn in, and it's remote, and there's not a lot of tourists. That's what I love about it. It's such an honor to meet these. I get starstruck when I meet Greenlandic people. To me, they're like celebrities, and
it's like meeting Taylor Swift for you or something.
Oh yeah, definitely. And when I met that Tuvalu girl, Carrie, in my video, she was the biggest celebrity I had met. I was fawning over her. I'm like, oh my goodness,
love that.
You're from Tuvalu. I love rare people. Rare people.
Oh man, that's a beautiful thing, man. That's so cool to hear. So it's the resilience of the people and high on the pop care scale.
Yes,
I guess too,
I would say that's very close. Maybe 2 or 1.8 on the scale.
Yeah. The level of resilience of the people is directly proportional to your ranking on the pop care scale, I suppose.
I would say that definitely factors in. Yes.
No, that was cool to hear. Denmark was unexpected because people always, Scandinavia gets the rep for cold people or whatever. Cold climate,
but Denmark has the loudest and most fun people in the Scandinavian countries, so that's why I like them. Yeah, and one of my best friends, Gus, is Danish, so yeah.
Yeah, well, you mentioned hygge, the idea of the coziness. We have a similar thing here in Norway. I'm always fascinated by the cultural concepts of a country, Pura Vida, for example, is the one that's pretty well known in Costa Rica, which is the pure life kind of it's like some of these cultural concepts embody so many characteristics. It's almost just, you could say the direct translation, but it means so much more than that, right? And then I'm always curious about how much a cultural concept gets interwoven into society where it's actually impacting the way like people live their daily lives, because there's like this underpinning there of this philosophical underpinning, let's say, from this cultural concept that's like permeating the days of almost every citizen every day, which sort of creates like the whole, like sort of like defines part of like how the society functions on a day to day in some way. Like it could, theoretically. I'm just curious about your thoughts on that, and like maybe one or two you've come across. Like I call this appropriate cultural appropriation. It's like which of these concepts can we steal and like implement into our own lives? And so I just want to hear like your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, if anything, you already know about, I mean, moving to Norway and the Scandinavian areas. I mean, they have this culture of really appreciating their space, their personal space, and, respecting people by not being loud all the time and just, maintaining a level of decorum and peace and quiet. They really love their peace and quiet up in the Nordics. And that's what I love, because living in this city, LA, it's loud and chaotic. And sometimes I'm just tired of it. Like I kind of want peace and quiet. And that's why I also like Denmark, because they can be fun, but they also enjoy their peace and quiet and space. Those are some cultural values that I feel like, and they're orderly. Like the fact that you can trust your neighbors and your fellow countrymen and everything. They have a kind of like a sense of that in many regions. They have that in many areas of like East Africa and West Africa as well. They're very communal out there. If anybody causes a problem, they'll have communal justice. Everybody will come and catch the person and bring him to justice. Everybody's in it together. That's a good value that I see a lot in many East and West African cultures. In East Asian cultures, they're always they're always downplaying compliments, because it's perceived as arrogance if you accept a compliment. So if you say, "Oh, you're so great," they'll say, "Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not." I grew up with that, and I understand how a lot of people don't understand why we do that, but it's just the way it is. We are so beyond compliments that you can never accept a compliment in East Asian culture. You have to downplay yourself. You have to be deprecating.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's like stark contrast to the individualistic American society, right?
Yeah, but I also appreciate that too.
Right.
I mean, I grew up, America. That's the thing. I mean, you can be as communal as you want, but at the end of the day, it's a community made up of individuals. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own unique trait and quality, and everybody has their own way of doing things. And I think that's one powerful thing that we Americans are able to excel at. The fact that we can be creative and we can be individuals and we can figure our own path and pave our own ways. That's not possible in a lot of places. It's encouraged in this country to be a little different. It's okay if you're different. We encourage you to be different. We encourage you to think differently. And from thinking differently, you can be very innovative and creative, and creativity builds a whole world. I don't know. It's I respect that too.
I agree. I mean, I'm proud to be from the States, and that aspect of it has served me personally well, I think. But it's interesting because as you're describing the East Asian culture, and there's something called Yantalo here, which is similar.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, which is about like downplaying your sort of like not standing out too much. And so I have these two.
I think that's why Denmark gels so well with me. They have the Janteloven thing. I'm like, I get that.
Yeah, it's like those two ideas, like where you can kind of lean into your sort of individualistic tendencies, let's say, of kind of like, creative, let's not be afraid to stand out, whatever. And then kind of like matching that with this idea of like, okay, but how can we like do this in a sort of like communal kind of community based, I don't know. Right. It's like a nice balance, I feel.
Yeah. My buddy Gus did a great video explaining why the Nordic peoples are like that. And it has to do with like growing up in a Viking type of setting where you couldn't always trust everybody. Or I don't know how he said something, but it was very profound. And I'm like, oh, okay. I see why the Nordic people are like that now. Like he explained it. Yeah.
Where are you going to move, man?
I actually really like SoCal, Southern California. I just don't like anything that's in LA County. Like,
Okay. So
LA
you're not
County.
going far. You're going to stay in California.
Ideally, if I can, I'll try and see if I can. There's a place I really like called Burbank. I also like Pasadena or Glendale. I don't know, because they are right next to LA, but they are not incorporated within the city. So it's like a weird legislative bubble where they have their own city status. As long as it's not within LA City proper, I'll be happy. I would love to move to any of those areas. Worst case, I don't want to move out of the state, but if I have to, I'll look at my options. But my number one priority, see if I can stay in SoCal. That's my
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure because, like, with the way you were, kind of started, I was like, oh, is he going to move like to Portugal or something?
You know what? I've been encouraged by my friends to get Italian citizenship because of my Italian heritage and ancestors. So they keep saying, Paul, go for it. It's not that difficult now. I don't know, some new law passed or whatever. I don't know. But I even talked to my mom. I'm like, hey, Mom, would you like to live abroad for a while, maybe in Italy? And she's like, let's do it. So I don't know. Anything's possible.
Hey, man, it's good to have options. You get the EU passport. You can eventually move to Denmark. There you go.
Oh, my goodness. $25 sandwiches. Yeah.
Before I let you go, any sort of quirky or interesting facts that from all the recording you've did in every country in the world, like geographic facts or anything that stands out that you're like, wow, that actually really surprised me when I found it out?
Oh my goodness, so much. So one thing I really like to highlight in my videos is the political geography, the actual demarcation lines of the domains and the boundaries of the countries. That's what I told you. I obsessed over maps as a kid. So I like looking at what belongs to a country specifically. And the thing that I'm really fascinated with are border anomalies or like enclaves or exclaves, parts of a country that are detached and like engulfed in another country, like how Alaska is detached and, connects to Canada, or like, just like pieces of countries that are detached and in other parts that are not connected to the rest of the country. That stuff fascinates me because then you have to cross through another country to get there, or they don't have access to certain things, or the way how they function is weird. And that stuff really fascinates me. Angola has the Cabinda exclave. Russia has Kaliningrad, the whole Fergana Valley in Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, all that stuff is messed up. There's like 10 different exclaves going on. I love exclaves, as you can tell. I love them. I went to the quadrupoint between the 4 countries in Africa. That was in one of my videos. The letter to Botswana, where all 4 countries meet, and you can go on a bridge and see them and look around. There's 4 countries. If you go to the Wakhan corridor in Afghanistan, they just finished building the road where it touches China, and then there's a 3.5-hour time jump because China is all under one time zone, whereas Afghanistan is 3.5 hours behind them. So if you cross that border, you will cross 3.5 hours into the future. It's great. It's like the largest time zone jump besides the date line, international date line. So stuff like that. The lines and borders that we create as humans for demarcation of our domains, like that fascinates me.
Yeah. Do you think like a borderless world or a less bordered world is possible?
No, but I believe legislatively people can be more open to having people come in. And if we could just be more peaceful with each other, I feel like having more peace with people, but having your own distinct domain is probably where the world should head. I don't think we'll ever have no borders. And especially when the border is on a natural landmark and you have no choice, like if it's on a river or a mountain. But people like to have their own domains, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that. And they like to maintain their own personhood and culture in these domains. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think they should be open to letting people see what they have going on and share. Share. It's good to share. Why not?
I mean, after wrapping up this project, do you feel like you have more hope for the world or less?
Oh, that's the question to ask for the whole podcast. Yeah. I feel like the world goes in waves. It gets good, it gets bad, it gets good, it gets bad. And just because we're in a bad wave or a good wave right now, all you can do is just do your best. That's all you can do. You can just do your best and love the people that you love. That's all.
I love that. It's a great way to end. Love the people you love. And geography now, I'll say.
Geography now.
Got the exclamation point. No, we'll link up to everything. Do you have anywhere like you want to send people to share outside of the YouTube station? People can find us?
We have many social medias. We have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I just opened up TikTok like 2 months ago. So feel free to join that if you want. Yeah. And I post on the YouTube community tab all the time. So check that out too. Yeah. Geography Now. I think Instagram is Geography Now _official. Twitter is Geography Now. Facebook is Geography Now fan page. TikTok is Geography Now _official. And I think that's it. Yeah. And obviously the YouTube channel, Geography Now. Yeah.
Cool. Huge congrats on wrapping up this epic decade-long project with the station.
It's been a long one.
I really appreciate that you got up in the middle of the night or not got up, you were up, but you're still recording this in the middle of the night.
Always up.
So that's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm like in awe of how sharp your brain is right now, because I would certainly be stumbling and slurring my words at 2 a.m. Or whatever time it is there. But man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you've done. I admire the fact that you like started this project and then like saw it to its end, which is a rare thing, I think. So I just want to give you for whatever it means, give you some props here and just say congratulations. And yeah, look forward to staying in touch, man. I really appreciated the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And this was really fun. You asked some really fun questions and I really enjoyed just chatting and bantering back and forth. You're awesome, man.
Thanks, man. Likewise. Hope we can do it in person next time.
Of course. You're always welcome to chat with me whenever you want.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You have a good one. Cheers.
There you have it. I want to thank Paul Barbato, for stopping by the show. Check out his YouTube station, Geography Now. Congrats on completing that epic 10-year-long quest to cover every country, every UN-recognized nation. Did it in alphabetical order, too. Crazy impressive. And before we part ways for the day, I'm going to leave you with a quote, but I do want to circle back with this idea I shared at the top on doing your pre-trip research. My conversation with Paul really got me thinking about how I could do a better job of taking in the big picture of where a country or where a region is at in its history when you are visiting. And it's an impossible puzzle to piece together. You can't really do it. As you heard during the conversation, I mean, Paul, he covers a lot of different angles in terms of, a nation's geography, its culture, history, politics, and so on. And, all of that makes up the vibe of the place we are in, of course, where it's at historically and the historical context and where people are coming from, where they've been, what they've witnessed, what they've been a part of. And it's, you can't ever truly understand and unpack it. Each individual in that nation has their own individual perspective, but they have this sort of collective, not mindset, but this sort of collective consciousness in a way. As like wherever you grew up, you've all been within that culture, even though you're a part of different cultures within your home country culture, but you've kind of been through certain things, some things together. And I think I could do a better job of not just, seeking out sort of the main sites and the logistics of a place to visit, but also trying to get just an understanding of where a country is at right now and how the media is portraying it internationally, how the media is portraying it locally, politically, where it's at. I mean, it's just, it's complicated, but I don't know. I think, getting into that mindset during my pre-trip research and just kind of trying to do a little bit of a better job. It's not like it's a job. It's fun. It's just, trying to, hey, let me just see where this country's at right now. What am I stepping into? What is the vibe here right now? I just thought it was a idea worth sharing. Whenever I can get some historical context, at the very least, it can open up the place in different ways for me. So I just thought I'd share that as we come out of this one. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to leave you with a quote in a minute. Don't forget, we have a free newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter. You can sign up for that over there. And I'll leave you with a quote on geography. This one was fascinating by George Santayana, who said, "To me, it seems a dreadful indignity to have a soul controlled by geography." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by zerototravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.